Hey folks, Malforian here. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're continuing our CK3 Lifestyle series. This is just talking about the 5 different lifestyles in the game, just giving a rough overview, discussing a little bit, talking about examples where they're good to use in the game, and then just maybe some suggestions about where we could see some improvement in the future or changes on all that kind of stuff, if we can think of any. But I've done the previous 2 already, Diplomacy and Martial. There'll be a link to those in the description down below. But yeah, it is Stewardship today, so we're just going to get straight into it. So obviously the 3 focuses, like all the other trees, is the first one is Wealth Focus, gives you plus 10% more monthly income, and that's basically it. Dominion Focus gives you plus 3 Stewardship. Duty Focus gives you Enemy Agent Acceptance -5. Stewardship plus 1, Courtier and Guest Opinion plus 20. So I think out of all the ones we've seen so far, I think these focuses are the worst. Monthly income's not too bad, especially once you're a large empire. I guess 10% is quite a lot, but I don't know. I don't think, especially early game, this really doesn't give you much gold. Plus 3 Stewardship, I guess this is probably the best one, just because it gives you that flat Stewardship bonus, which is useful. Stewardship gives you obviously more income, but it also allows you to have more domains. And probably, especially early on when you're probably expanding quite quickly and you want to keep as much of that land to yourself as much as possible. Domain Focus is probably the best one. Duty Focus is okay, but I don't think I've ever used Duty Focus. Let me know in the comments if you do use it, but I don't think I've ever done it. I think I always just use Domain Focus because, I don't know, I just think they're all pretty terrible, but that one's the best of the bad bunch, I think. The 3 trees, these are all pretty different. I think especially compared to the other trees that we've already talked about. I think Stewardship so far has the 3 most varied trees that are kind of quite different gameplay style. Well, not gameplay styles, but affect you quite differently in the 3 different trees. Learning's probably the biggest one, I imagine, but we'll talk about that when we get to learning. So the first one is Avaricious. You've got golden obligations. You can demand payment for hooks. So basically any hooks that you have on anyone, you can sell them. I think it's 50 gold by standard, so you can farm a lot of money. This is actually really good tied with intrigue. We'll get onto this straight away. Truth is relative, because you can basically fabricate a hook and then immediately sell it for 50 gold. So you can basically just farm money off people if you wanted to play like a intrigue / stewardship character. You just put a point into Truth is relative, a point into golden obligations, and then you basically just farm creating hooks and then just sell them for 50 gold. So you can make a lot of money doing it. So I'm kind of surprised it hasn't been moved. I guess people don't generally do it, but you can get a lot of gold by doing that. So that's a good little thing if you're, after a little bit of money and you are focused on one of those trees at all. It is a good way of doing it. Or if you're just really badly in need of some gold, you could reset your perks, I guess, and just take those too. But anyway, just so you know, that's kind of a cool way to get some money if you really want to. We've got this one here, which gives you plus 10 vassal tax contribution, plus 10% gold. I mean, it's okay. Gives you that little bit extra gold. I guess if you were put onto this one as well, you get 10% and then 10% more of that 10%. So it does, I guess, add up a little bit. Detailed ledgers, plus 20 Republican ruler opinions. Obviously, your city, your mayors basically like you a little bit more. I don't know. I guess that's good. I've never actually noticed an issue from that. It obviously does affect things, but I don't know. I've never super noticed it. Let me know in the comments if there's something I'm missing there, but I think this is probably one of the worst options in all these trees. And then plus 15% more gold. I mean, that one is kind of good if you have a lot of cities. This is especially good, I suppose, in Iberia, where you have that special, what is it, Metropolis? That's not it. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but the special tree for your legacy that affects cities and all that. This would actually make it even better. So coupled with that, it might actually be okay, but generally I think it's terrible. War Profiteer. Monthly income while at war plus 10%. Again, this is just quite a nice thing to have. Again, if you're at war, 10% bonus. I think it'd kind of help you feel very close to being in debt, but I don't think it's going to be like, wow, I've got 10% more gold whilst at war. But, it's not the worst, I suppose. Fearful Troops, 0.5% cheaper men-at-arms per level of dread. So if you have, super high dread, it's actually crazy cheaper for your men-at-arms. So this is probably the best one so far outside of golden obligations, because if you have a high dread, your men-at-arms are just so cheap. You can have way more of them during that character. You've got to obviously keep in mind when you die, you've got to get rid of your men-at-arms, because unless you have a lot of money, because they're obviously going to get way more expensive. Or if you have an event that clears your dread or something, it can be a bit of a shock, but it is really, really good. It is my domain. Can use extort subjects decision. I definitely don't use this decision as much as I probably should. You basically just get money from your subject, but I think it lowers your popular opinion. I think so. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think it's all right. I just generally don't use it. Golden aplomb, monthly income per stress level plus 10%. So I guess if you were a +3 stress and you didn't die, you get 30% more income, which I guess coupled with this one and this one is actually quite a lot of extra gold. But I don't know. How often do you want to be at least more than one level of dread? Not very often. At any cost, you can sell titles decision. This basically sells made-up titles for gold. It does something bad. Again, I can't remember off the top of my head what it does. Oh, prestige. It lowers your prestige. That's what it is. Yeah, give up prestige for gold. So I guess if you have a lot of prestige, it's like a trade, basically, that you can do. And then Avaricious itself gives you +2 stewardship and +15% tax holdings. So I guess if you went down all of Avaricious, it does actually add up to a lot of extra gold. So if you're having, gold issues, or you just want a lot of gold for like investing in your towns and, just generally investing in your realm for the future, I suppose it is actually quite good. If you focus the character on it and then use that gold effectively, I suppose it does set you up for the future with all that extra gold, the other stuff you can do. I suppose you can also take mercenaries if you really wanted to, but I think it is quite niche apart from the top one. I know people will disagree with this one. I think a lot of people do like the Avaricious tree, but I just think a lot of them are kind of like, I don't know, I guess they're just passive bonuses that you don't see like through gameplay. You won't generally see the bonuses they have, but they will, I suppose, add up quite a bit overall. So I think Avaricious is okay. I mean, some of them I think are just kind of bad, but I suppose if you do need money, it is probably the best one, and that is what it's focused on. So I guess that makes sense. And then Architect, this is a cool kind of mix between a couple of different things. So collect taxes effectiveness +25%. Just means if you have your steward on collect taxes, he just does it better. I don't know actually if this affects, like, you get those random events where he like finds 50 gold down the back of the sofa, and I don't know if it affects that. I guess not. I think it just buffs the bonuses that it gives you straight away whilst he's active doing that thing. Defensive measures. So this is one that isn't really stewardship focused. This kind of goes back to martial a little bit. +1 fort level. So you could tie this with the martial ability that also gives you +1 fort level, and that's +2 without having to spend any money. Garrison size +20%, so obviously your sieges are going to last longer, your defensive ones, because you've got more people there. Unlocks the purchase truce interaction, allows the truces to be bought preemptively. This obviously got added with Fate of Iberia, I think. Yeah, I think it's Fate of Iberia. So if you're playing on console, you won't have this. I don't think this option shows at all. Yeah, this allows you to buy truces proactively. It is actually pretty good, especially if you're playing somewhere where you want to expand. You maybe want to concentrate on one area. So, if you're playing in Iberia and you want to take over, Galicia and the northwest area of Iberia, maybe you purchase a truce with Al-Andalus or something if they've stuck around, and then they won't attack you. I think it's for 10 years. So it is actually pretty good for kind of protecting one side. You don't have to worry about somebody. If you're playing as Brittany, you could buy a truce with France for 10 years. I think it costs quite a lot of money, but you could do it and then you don't have to worry about France attacking you. So, yeah, it's okay. I don't think I've ever done it myself, but you could do a play style like that. Organized muster rolls, you just get 100% more levy reinforcement rate, which is pretty good. Again, so this is quite martial focused for a stewardship tree. Cutting cornerstones, this makes buildings cheaper across the board. If you use prestige, piety, or gold, it just makes them cheaper. Yeah, and the holdings as well, so that's pretty good. And then this one makes them 30% faster, so this makes it cheaper and faster. And then centralization increases your development growth in your capital by 0.3 a month, which is actually quite a lot. So yeah, if you're obviously going to be building a lot of buildings, if you play the game like me where I take characters as they are, it's kind of harder, I think, to use this as you would if you're playing the game and you just reset your perks whenever you want, which is fair enough. Obviously, if you're saving up a lot of gold, or maybe you've done a crusade and you get a bunch of gold from being a successful crusader or something, you could respec into this and your buildings are cheaper, they're faster. It's just really, really good for kind of getting cheaper investment now for obviously long-term benefits. So this is actually really good, the architect tree here. Popular opinion +50, that obviously just helps your opinion with your counters and things like that. Domain limit +2. So again, this is good, but it's also kind of bad sometimes. This allows you to have more domain limits, so you keep things under your direct control. But obviously when you die, unless your next character has really high stewardship, you could be crazy over the domain limit. Unless you have, Confederate partition, and then you've got other things to worry about. But this is good, but it can also be a bit of a pain on your next character if you don't have somebody who is stewardship focused or just has really high stewardship for some reason. And then architect itself, this again buffs the stewardship by 2, and then again reduces the cost and build time of buildings. So minus 15%, and then minus 30. Your buildings are basically built half as fast for about 30% cheaper, I think. Or is it 20% cheaper? I think 20%. Yeah, 15% cheaper. So 15% cheaper, 45% quicker. Like I say, if you know you're going to be investing in buildings, it's obviously it's called architect. That's what it's all about. And then administrator, the third one, meritocracy. Can use claim throne scheme against your liege. If you're playing as a vassal, this is awesome. If you're not, it's literally pointless. Does exactly what it says on the tin. Helps you claim your throne of your liege, which is pretty good. Change of loyalty, learn language, power scheme. A scheme power plus 50%. As I said, under diplomacy, I never learn languages. There's probably reasons why I should, but I never do. But this makes it half as, plus 50% quicker, which is funny, because I think one of these also, not to get too sidetracked, but I'm sure one of these helped you with the same thing. Oh wait, no, it allowed you to learn more learn languages, and the scheme power is 75% better. Okay, no, so it's not exactly the same. And then where were we? Was it this one? Scheme power plus 50%. Yeah, anyways, yeah, if you, for whatever reason, super want to learn languages, there is an achievement, I think, for learning 10 languages. Or is it 8? Whatever it is. It's a lot. These would help, I suppose. But again, I think this was added with languages, and I think it's just kind of thrown in the tree somewhere. It's not super good, I don't think. But I might be missing something. Domestic affairs efficiency plus 25%. It's actually really good, especially if you take over a new character. People don't like you as much. You've got that new ruler modifier. This, obviously, if you focus on domestic affairs with your court, it's going to buff how effective that is. So it's actually quite good for new characters. It's useful anyway, but for new characters, it is actually quite good for negating those new ruler debuffs. And then likable, which is direct vassals plus 10, and liege opinion plus 20. Again, if you're playing as a vassal, this one's quite good, because it makes your liege like you more, so you could get put on the council more often, which gives you crazy good bonuses. So overall, quite good. I mean, the plus 10 for direct vassals is okay, but I generally find when playing the game, your vassals either love you or they hate you. It's very, very unlikely, except for, like I say, when you're playing as a new character, that it's kind of in the middle. But it can happen, so it's okay. It's nothing crazy though. Positions of power, councillor opinion plus 20. If you have a powerful vassal that isn't on the court, I think it's minus 60 modifier for not being on the court. This would obviously negate that to minus 40. Wait, no, they have to be on the court. So no, this would basically have that swing be 80. So it'd be minus 60, 0 for being on the court, and then plus 20 for being on the court. So it is quite good for, I think, for making powerful vassals like you a lot. Obviously, it does improve if they're not powerful vassals and they're on your court. They're still going to like you more. But obviously, I think the main reason for that is powerful vassals making them like you. Larger levies, plus 20% more from vassal levy contribution, which is not too bad. 20% more levies. Obviously, levies have diminishing returns, but yeah, 20% is not too bad. Soon forgiven, monthly tyranny minus 0.15. If you're playing a character that has a lot of tyranny, it's obviously going to help you quite a bit. And then toe the line, your vassals are less likely to join independence factions. So I actually think this right-hand side is kind of probably the worst. It's probably not the worst, but it's the one I probably very rarely go down. But toe the line is actually quite good. So if you want to come down to honoured to serve and administrator, these first two I think are okay. Larger levies is all right. I think soon forgiven is just not very good. I quite like this to be changed in some way, although I guess, not everything can be useful all the time. And then toe the line is just good because your vassals are less likely to join independence factions. If you have a large realm, it can be the difference between having a lot of independence factions and not having a lot. So it is actually pretty good going down this one. And then, to be honest, if you go down both, it's very hard to have factions at all because you'll have chains of loyalty, you'll have the likable, so your direct vassals like you more, and then you have positions of power. So again, your powerful vassals, if they're on the court, they're going to like you even more than anyway. And then toe the line means they're even less likely to join independence factions. It's very hard. Similar to other ones, similar to divided attention, you've got to be careful. I've had this in campaigns, especially on the channel, some of our longer campaigns where you'll play a character for a long time under administrator and all your vassals love you and everything. You get all his modifiers for like long reign and everything. and then when you die and you play as your next character, it just all goes to, it just all falls apart. Or, you have a lot of like 5 or 10 years of just rebellions. Your vassal's not liking you because your next character won't have all these bonuses, which is obviously cool. That's obviously how it worked in real life for many respects, but it is something to keep in mind. If you've got a long-living character and you focused on these, you can be up for a rude awakening when you play as your next character. And then Honor to Serve, this gives you powerful vassal counselors, plus 20% more tax contribution, plus 20% more levies. So yeah, if you have your powerful vassals on your court, which generally you do, I know it's not always what happens, but for the other bonuses you get for having them on your court, it's usually what people do. And then this gives you 20% more of both from them, so it's another nice little bonus. And the last one is Administrator, and this gives you +1 Diplomacy, +3 Stewardship, +5 Vassal Opinion. I think it's probably the worst of these. Yeah, well, Avaricious is okay. Again, it's a very passive one, which again, Administrator is. Whereas Architect, I guess you go for when you're wanting to build things, because you're like, okay, I get Architect and I get crazy reductions in price and time. Whereas Administrator, it's just a flat buff. And the +5 Vassal Opinion, I kind of think that should be more. Maybe like 10 or 15. I guess it would make them so good that, if you had the whole tree, you basically never have any issues with your vassals. But again, that's kind of what the tree's all about, and you give up other bonuses for doing that. So I think this bottom one should be changed. Actually, I think, to be honest, I think all of these, well, Architect's okay, but I'd almost think these bottom ones, and we haven't talked about this in the previous two, might do a separate video about it, I'm not sure, but we'll talk about it here now. I almost think these bottom ones should be way better or do something else, because a lot of them, like this one, is, that could be this one here. Like, it's okay, but it's nothing crazy. An Architect, again, it gives just more of these bonuses. Administrator just gives you like +3 Stewardship. It's nothing to complain about, but it's also for finishing off an entire tree. It's not amazing. Maybe if you got to the bottom of Administrator, you got like a one-off thing that happened. Maybe I can't even think of one. For Architect, I could. Maybe you get Architect and then you get like 2 free buildings to build, or that'd probably be too overpowered. But you know what I'm thinking of. Maybe you get like a one-off thing that happens for finishing the tree, and these bonuses are just moved into the rest of the tree somehow. Or even it just gives you those plus an event happens. You get Architect, you then get these bonuses, and then you get one event where like, hey, we found some money down the back of the sofa again. Let's build a castle, and you pick where to build a castle or something. And then Avaricious, maybe you get an event where you, again, like you set up a banking guild and they give you more money for 5 years. I think there is an event that roughly works like that anyway in the game. So something like that. I think there was some extra bonus for getting to the bottom of these trees. And then if I'm honest, if you finish all 3, there should be a mega event that happens. Because it's pretty hard to do that unless you live a long time. And then admin, again, maybe something happens. Maybe you get like 100% control growth for like 5 years or something that triggers just something nice, something a little bit different that gives you that like, whoa, I finished the tree, now here's a crazy bonus. Like I say, Architect's probably the nearest to that just because of how cheap it makes things, but the other ones are just general, again, just kind of background bonuses you're not really going to see the benefit of like in day-to-day playing the game. Obviously having high stewardship, you can have more land, you'll probably trigger more stewardship events. Even the +1 diplomacy here, is nice that it triggers, that it's kind of associated with diplomacy rather than stewardship, but a +1, like who cares? It'd be cool if something happened in it. Maybe even Administrator, maybe when you finished it, to go off on a bit more of a ramble, it did something like, oh, you get 10% more lifestyle gain for diplomacy. So then you'd have a character that, oh, I finished admin. Oh, this character then, yeah, he was kind of all about stewardship, but then he became a master administrator and he was like, diplomacy is actually my calling. And then you'd move over and start working down the diplomacy tree, maybe on diplomats. You could have like an admin diplomat, and you do get these bonuses like up here because you're martial education. You get 40% more experience because high steed's obviously like super martial focused. Things like a 5-star martial character or a 4-star, whatever the highest is. So he gets these bonuses, which obviously makes it better to focus on the lifestyle your character is. But yeah, maybe if you finished Administrator, it gave you an additional 10% towards Diplomat or something. So it just kind of like naturally guided you to be like, hey, you don't have to focus on stewardship. You could be a mix of the two, which I do try and do sometimes, especially on certain characters. Like I'll have characters where I play Marshal. Again, not to get off, this should probably be a separate video, but I'm just going to add it in here. We can talk about it in the comments below. But yeah, I've had characters that start Marshal, and then as they get later in life, I go, okay, later in life they've moved and they settle down and they become a scholar later in their life. And, you know, I go all about being scholarly focused. As they get older and older, because that's kind of probably what would have happened historically. So I like doing that. So it would be cool if some of them did do that kind of, you finish admin, it's, you know, it kind of tangentially links to this other tree, so you get a bonus in that tree for having finished this one. Anyway, just an idea. Let me know what you think down below. But that is Stewardship. So overall, I think quite good. I think Architect's good. I think Administrator is okay. And I think Avaricious, apart from Golden Obligations, I don't know. That's the only reason why I ever take that tree. Again, I know it's popular. It is a popular tree, so call out in the comments if there's somewhere where I'm obviously missing where it's really, really good. But I generally, if I play a Stewardship character, I generally just do Architect and then move down Administrator if I want to stay as a Stewardship-focused character. And I generally just take Domain Focus for the extra stewardship. So yeah, overall I think it's okay. I think it's probably the worst of the three that we've covered so far. I think Diplomacy and Marshal are better, but obviously if you want more money, it's the one to go for generally. So that's it for today. Hit that like button if you've enjoyed it. If you're new here, I'm just going through all the lifestyle trees, just a bit of a review at the end of 2022 as we wait for the new content next year. And so if you've enjoyed this or you enjoy Crusader Kings and other strategy games, hit subscribe. I have content every week on those kind of games. But we'll leave it there for today, and I'll see you in the next one.